So I've set up this simple landscape in order to show you some things about using a high dynamic range image as a background and incorporating it with the Bryce sky, and also how the lighting might be affected when it comes to repositioning this background. So what you've got here, if we look at sky and fog, is some brown haze, so that's covering this sun up. This is a HDRI image sun, as is this. There is no Bryce sun in this scene. You can see, if we look at sun and moon, that the sun and moon is not a visible object in this scene, so it's not really doing anything. In the image-based lighting tab, you can see the HDRI that's used, which has got this large low red sun on the horizon and this brighter sun but the smaller in the sky. And the first thing I want to draw your attention to in this setup is if you hold the control key down, you can rotate this along the horizontal axis. Even small modifications in its position might result in radical differences in the output from the sun. So as I rotate it round, you might see, here we go, that's radically brighter from this sun here. And I think this is something to do with the way the HDRI is sampled to generate the simulated light sources. Because this preview only operates at the lowest quality setting, you might find that while in this setting, when you render at this setting, the preview and the main view match, when we go to a position where we've got a higher quality setting, the distribution of simulated light sources may or may not, in this case it didn't change in such a way as to change the light output in a significant way. So that's something to be aware of. I'll rotate this a little bit more. So here we've got the preview, and see if this matches up. So that looks like it matches up pretty well there. Okay, I'll try one more time while I'm on this topic. So here we go, 256. It's looking very bright in the view, and it's looking very bright there. So it's not really helping me here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a bit random. So you can see I've moved it round quite a bit there. Let's try a lower setting and see if we see any difference in light output. A little bit. There's a little bit of variation there. If I pick an area like this, let it render out, and go in here, and then take it up to a higher level of quality, and I'll render a bit next to it. And then when I get rid of this window, you might see that there is different light intensity on the ground here, or you may not. We shall see. It's taking a little bit longer because I've got a lot more simulated light sources because of turning the quality up. So I think that'll probably be enough to see a difference. So I'll just move that. So there and there you can see that increasing the number of simulated light sources has reduced the power from the main sun. So that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing that may affect when it comes to blending between the... I'll just reset this back to the original position. When it comes to blending between the sky and the clouds, in this case, I've got things set so we're adding to the sky. Now its appearance is controlled by the intensity, but that is not unless you deliberately do so by using apply to light source linked to the HDRI effect. So we can make it appear very bright and there's no more light. So that's just something to be aware of. You can change the amount of light and it doesn't have to appear any brighter. These two things, unless you link them, are independent. The other thing to note is we're adding to the sky at the moment, so whatever sky settings we have, the HDRI image is put on top of that and added up. So you can have like sun glow colour added on top of the HDRI effect. So supposing we wanted to use this, I'm going to try it now. So hold Control and Alt, double click on the sun rollerball, and then I can position the sun by just holding Control and Alt and single clicking, and that asterisk puts the sun where that sun is. Now I'm not going to use the light output from the sun. What I'm going to do is add the sun as a visible object. And because it's added in, whatever the sun glow colour, which in this case is blue, is added in to the HDRI to create this halo effect, and whatever I change this colour to, it will affect that. So that's a useful feature when using the additive property. However, in the image-based lighting tab under User's Backdrop, you've got these other ones. Use Sky Color takes the sky color and includes it. So if we do that now, we get the blue from the sky added in. But we don't have to just do that. We get more control if we blend with the sky. So if you blend with the sky, the transparency control here takes it from fully the HDRI as a backdrop to fully the sky as a backdrop. Remember, that's the Bryce sun now I was incorporating, and anywhere in between will give you a combination of these two, though you'll note the clouds look a little bit dull when you use this mixing method. It might be suitable depending on the subject. Perhaps a little more of a useful option is to go for blend into background, and this will allow you, as you can see if I modify the transparency, it actually sort of reduces the HDRI so it can barely be seen. But when you've got this blending mode, and even with a transparency of 0 on the HDRI, you can get a nice overlap of the clouds on your HDRI image to give a more natural effect. So I'm just going to zoom in on that so you can see a bit more closely what's going on there. So this is blend into background. I know the HDRI sun here is not the highest resolution version, which is why you can see some pixelation along the edge there. You can use various methods to hide that. The way I did it here was to use the very wide field of view, but I wanted to show you the clouds as they were passing over the sun and show you how they change depending on which method we use. So in this case we're just getting full HDRI backdrop there. Switch it to 50 and we'll have 50% sky mixed with 50% HDRI. The clouds are not very noticeable in that case. And then if we go to additive, what you will tend to find is the clouds get added on top of the sun, so they look brighter, but because the sun's already a bright object it's very difficult to see them. So in this case I think the nicest effect comes from blending into the background and reducing the transparency of that to 0, so you've got a full image as the background, and then the clouds overlapping the sun, pushing it further back along with the haze. So that creates quite a good effect. If it's not looking bright enough, you can always increase the intensity a bit to get some nice glow effect going there in the sky. I think that's worked rather well. And I see why it's rendering slow. I've still got the quality turned up. It'll render a lot faster now. And then just widen the field of view out again, and you can see I think that looks quite nice, the way that the HDRI image and the light from the HDRI image is backlighting those clouds so they look a bit darker. The reason for this stone in the foreground is mostly about the situation with the shadows. So I'm just going to hide the Bryce sun again. So sun moon, I can remove that as a visible object. I'll check in the tab here, but I think as you switch between these blend modes it'll forget it's got use sky color. So if you do want to use the sky color, then you need to re-enable that every time you switch your blending mode there. So I'm just going to go back here so you can see this sun now, because it's not being dominated by the presence of the bright suns, giving us quite a dramatic effect. The only issue that I feel that I've got to sort out here now is the one of the shadows. Because of the way this is sampled, even turning the sampling level up quite high is not giving us any nicer shadows really. I mean, it's quite a long-winded render at the default setting and the shadows are not significantly any better. So in this case what I recommend doing is have a low quality and use shadow softness and combine that with premium effect renders soft shadows, because this is more efficient than using the regular rendering, and take this down to whatever level you think you can get away with. Bearing in mind I've chosen quite a bumpy surface for the ground, I might be able to get away with a very low setting like 9 rays per pixel. Just try a small area and see how it looks. So this will give us actually better sampling on this ground texture as well, which is quite noisy. And I'll just give that a quick render and we'll see how long it's going to take. So according to this, about 44 seconds, which is not too bad really. So there you go. It's just a short video to cover and hopefully explain a bit about the options you have when using a HDRI image as a backdrop, incorporating it with existing Bryce sky elements such as the clouds, the haze and the sun, and also what impact it has rotating that image with respect to the light output, because you can have some surprising results otherwise if you're not aware that just rotating it will change the light output, so you'd have to correct the effect level to compensate for that. Okay then, hope you found that interesting. Cheers now.